Welcome back. This is the last lesson recording for IM2, November 30th, 2020. So let's go on to the last operations. So multiplying monomials with monomial number 1. So if I am multiplying 3x squared y with 4x y squared, what does that mean? We are multiplying 3x squared y multiplied by 4xy squared. Okay, this is very different to 3x squared y plus 4xy squared, which are not like terms, so we cannot do this. We cannot simplify this any further. However, when we are multiplying, this is a very different operation here. When you see 3, this is supposed to be 3. 3x squared y. This is really saying 3 times, what's x squared? That's x times y. And then to that, we're multiplying 4 times x times y times y. That's what y squared is. In between all of them, they're just the multiplication operations. So now we can bring all the numbers together and all the x's together, and we say, okay, so 3 and 4, we can just, because multiplication is commutative, that means the order does not matter. I can bring this to the front, and I can bring all the x's together. I have 1, 2, 3. I have 3 x's being multiplied together, and then I have y being multiplied together. Okay, so in this case, 3 times 4 is 12. To that, we're multiplying x to the power of 3 is same as x to the power of 3. To that, we're multiplying y to the y times y is same as y to the power of 3. And this can be rewritten as, we do not need this multiplication symbol. This can be rewritten as 12x to the power of 3, y to the power of 3. So this is what it means. Make sure that you fully understand that this is not the same thing, okay? Remember, we can't add these two terms together because they're not like terms, whereas we can multiply them. So do not get them confused. Okay, let's try simplify negative xy parenthesis 4xy. What does this parenthesis mean? Okay, so if you have 3, oops. Okay, so if you have 3 parentheses 2x, what does that mean? There is the invisible multiplication operation between the number or variable to a parenthesis. So that means there is a invisible multiplication right there. So negative xy is being multiplied to 4xy. That's what it means. And negative xy is really same as negative x is being multiplied to y, is being multiplied to 4, is being multiplied to the x, is being multiplied to y. Okay, but what about this negative 1? I can actually rewrite this as not as negative 1 is being multiplied to x. So now I can bring all the numbers together. Negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. X, to that I am multiplying x times x. So x times x. So I've dealt with those. I haven't dealt with the y's. So I have y times y. Notice that I am underlying as I take care of them so that I know that I do not miss out on dealing with any of them. So then this is same as negative 4 is being multiplied to x times x is same as x squared. Y times y is same as y squared. And I do not need those multiplication dots. I can just rewrite this as 4x squared y squared. Okay, so you are going to go to the rest of the Desmos activity now. Okay, card 11 says select all the ways we can represent multiply 3x squared y with negative 2xy. Well, negative 2xy, I can put, so this would work, okay? Because parenthesis means multiply. If I just if I just put it without the parentheses, this actually means subtract 2xy. So this is no longer multiplication. So this is no good. What about 3x squared y in parentheses and another parenthesis? That means both the terms are being multiplied? Yes. So what about this? 3x squared y with the dot, negative 2xy. Yes, this would also work as well. And what about parenthesis minus 2xy? The it has, if this is the number or some variable is in front of the parenthesis, the whole thing is being multiplied to whatever is inside the parenthesis. But if it is in front, this does not mean that. So it would just be these three. All right. So this is what you should have. Okay, to multiply 3x squared y with negative 2xy, Kojo wrote the steps on the left. So 3x squared. 3x squared y is the same as 3 times x, that's x squared, times y. And that parenthesis means multiplication. And to that, it's negative 2 is being multiplied to x times y. So then he brought the 3 and negative 2 together, and x's all the x's together and y's together, and you got 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. X multiplied to itself 3 times is x to the power of 3, and then y times y is y squared. So therefore this simplifies to negative 6x to the power of 3 y squared. Briefly explains what he did in step 1 to 2. Okay, so hopefully you can explain that. Show your steps using along the way and click the button to check your work. Trin is working on different monomial multiplication, multiplication simplification. Help her complete the steps. So this is same as what? This is same as 5 is being multiplied to do that. I would like my dot. This is my dot here. But oops, no, that's not what I want. I want multiply. 5 is multiplied to a is multiplied to x is being multiplied to x two times. And then that is being multiplied to 2 and another x. And on the second line, I can bring the 5 and 2 together. 5 multiplied by 2 multiplied by, okay, 5 and 2 I've taken care of. X, I have 3 x's. So x multiplied by x, multiplied by x, and then to that I still need to multiply by a. Okay, so and this simplifies to 5 times 2 is 10, multiplies to x to the x multiplied to itself 3 times is x to the power of 3. So for that I am going to use the caret of 3. And then to that I am going to multiply a. Okay, so it looks like he did a first. So I'm going to change that to a multiplied by, and I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm going to bring this to the front. Okay, and that matches up. All right, what should be the coefficient on the blank spot? Blank spot. So when you see negative x to the power of 3, okay, so we have x to the power of 3 multiplied by x to the power of 3. That's x times x times x times x times x times x is x to the power of 6. Y squared is same as y times y and y times y. So that's y to the power of 4. Negative 2 times negative. So remember, this could be written as negative 1 here. So negative 2 times negative 1 is going to be positive 2. So this will be 2 as my answer. What should be the exponent in the blank spot? Okay, so 3 times 5 is 15. X squared times x to the power of 3 is x being multiplied to itself 5 times, or x to the power of 5. Y times y is y squared. So this should be 2. And then finally, match each expression in its simplest form. Okay, so let's see, negative 6 times 5 will be negative 30. Negative 30 times x to the power of 4, x to the power of 2 is x times x times x times x times x times x is going to be x to the power of 6. Negative 30 x to the power of 6. We're looking for negative 30 x to the power of, and then y times y. Okay, so that should match up. What about negative 6 times negative 5 is negative 30 again. X to the power of 4 times x is x to the power of 5. And y times y squared. So it'll be this one. And negative 30 x squared. So it's going to be x to the power of 3. I'm looking for x to the power of 3. And y to the power of 4 times y. So that would match up. And negative 30 x times x is x squared, and y to the power of 4 and times y squared would match up with this. Okay, so they're all matched. Okay, so let's talk about multiplying using distributive property. What is a distributive property? It's like if you have 3 rows of 5 blocks. Okay, if you have 3 rows of 5 blocks, then you can separate this as 3 rows of 2 blocks, that's the blue ones, and 3 rows of 3 blocks. Okay, or algebraically we can say 3, that's the 3 rows of 2 plus 3. You have 2 blue and 3 greens. 2 plus 3 is same as 3 times 2 plus 3 times 3. Okay, so this is where you know that this is true. This is almost as if this 3 is being multiplied to 2 first, and then to that you're multiplying 3 times 3 here. So, but in this case, 3x plus 2y inside the parentheses cannot be simplified any further, can they? Because they're not like terms. So, but what you can do is you can multiply 4x. Remember, if you have a variable or a number in front of parentheses, there is an invisible multiplication operation here. So 4x is being multiplied to 3x first, and to that you're adding 4x multiplied by 2y. So that just becomes 4x times 3y. So you're basically distributing what's in front of the parentheses to each of the term inside the parentheses. And that's why it's called distributive property. So 4x is being multiplied to 3x. And to that, you're adding 4x times 2y. And that just becomes 4 times 3 is 12. X times x is x squared. 4 times 2 is 8. X times y is just xy, so it's 8xy. See if you can do this problem. Okay, so again, same thing. 3m squared is being multiplied to 2m cubed, and then 3m squared is being distributed to each of the terms inside the parentheses. So that becomes 3m squared times 2m cubed. And then to that, you're adding 3m squared multiplied by the middle term. That's the negative m's. And then finally, 3m squared is being multiplied to negative 1. That's the last term. And then you simplify each of the multiplication. And this is the final answer. Okay, and this is the last thing you are going to do. You are going to pause the video and see if you can solve these problems yourself. Okay, so please have a look at my answers and compare your work with my answers. And then finally, write in the table of content what we did today. Today's date, polynomial definitions and polynomial operations. We did combining like terms and multiplying monomials.